Good morning and welcome to the Committee of the Whole, December the 2nd, 2025. It is exactly 8:30 and the chair calls the meeting to order. And Mayor McKay, can you kindly read our land acknowledgement?
Certainly. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would like to acknowledge Wolf Hole is situated in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. And as such, ask that we conduct our business with the 7 sacred teachings in mind: truth, honesty, love, courage, respect, wisdom, and humility.
Thank you. And we'll move on to the approval of agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda, CAO?
There are no additions or changes.
Okay, seeing no additions or changes, the agenda is approved as circulated. Moving on to the minutes, Committee of the Whole minutes, November the 4th, 2025. Are there any errors or omissions in any of those? All right, seeing none, the Committee of the Whole minutes are approved as circulated. Moving on to the Committee of the Whole in-camera minutes, November the 4th, 2025. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, those are all also approved as circulated. Special Committee of the Whole, November the 12th, 2025. Also, any errors or omissions? Seeing none, those are also approved as circulated. All right, moving on to declarations of conflict of interest. If there's anyone around the table that wishes to declare a conflict of interest, can they do so now?
I'm going to declare a conflict of interest on 4A.
4A, okay. So you will just sit in the gallery at that time. Thank you, Councillor Pommeler.
And
CEO Horn?
Chair, I will be declaring conflict of interest on item 10A.
10A, okay, thank you so much. All right, and seeing no more, we'll move on. Public input. Is there anyone here wishing to speak for public input? Oh, sorry, present Jeepers Creepers. Sorry, I really wanted to move on. You know what I did? This is what's the funny thing is I put
get out of here.
No. This is what I did just for when Councillor Parmenter declared a conflict of interest on 4A, I checked it off. So I moved ahead. I am so sorry. This is why I have so many people around the table that help me. So we are going to presentations. Michael Howell is, I don't see him. Oh, he's online. There you go. Hi, Mike. I thought I let you off the hook there for a minute. Would have had it morning,
Good morning.
but welcome virtually. Michael Howell is the Executive Director of Devour, the film festival. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to update you on progress at the Devour Studios. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, great.
We can, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for confirming. What I will do is I have a just sort of a statement update that I'll read to you, and then I'll address any questions. And then as soon as I'm finished, I will send this sort of transcript of my comments to Laura, just so you have a hard copy of it, okay? The Slow Motion Food Film Festival Society is requesting a DEC funding extension to extend our existing agreement to December the 31st, 2026. Craig Parsons, the owner of Mid-Valley Construction and one of the proponents of building the deck, had experienced a family bereavement. His wife died earlier this year, which delayed much of their work for their Mid-Valley Construction projects. Just to have you know that Leah delivered the signed agreement to the town hall yesterday between Devour, John Lindsay, and the town of Wolfville. I understand that the building permit is approved. I just have to confirm that we have paid for it. Just a little background, Sue MacArthur and Craig Parsons gave us a verbal agreement 3 years ago that they were interested in this project. Since then, I believe Sue and Mike MacArthur have in fact moved or are moving to Wolfville, from what I understand. A most recent update, there were significant pauses in being able to get a hold of the MacArthurs and Parsons over time due to other major projects that they had on the go. I did follow up on November the 17th. I had a call with Sue and then a succession of texts. And Sue indicated that they were prepared to move forward again. Craig has indicated that he's happy to be getting back to a more normal life, given the tragedy that befell him and his family. Vincent Den Hartog and Sue met virtually on the 19th of November on architectural drawings and building materials, which have been sent to Sue's estimators for pricing. We indicated to Sue that the town's deck funding would be released upon construction, as well as an existing offer of a capital donation from Steve Haysom would also be forthcoming upon progress of the deck. So there is additional funding to support the potential cash elements. The Mid-Valley people are expecting to contribute labor and building materials and non-cash costs. In addition, just so council knows, there is also a possible RBC capital infrastructure grant for public spaces with an upcoming deadline of December the 15th. We are actually making an application to that grant. Our RBC contact, Nan McDonald, who is in fact on our board, indicated that this project fits the parameters of the grants, which in fact prioritize public community spaces. So right now we're awaiting the results of the estimations from Sue and Craig's people. We wanted to note to council that this is more progress than we've seen in the project since it was approved by council, indicating a likely spring construction schedule. Just a little update on the wayfinding and construction access. Bob Casey and Lindsay Slade have had ongoing conversations regarding wayfinding signage for the building, and in particular, the washrooms, the public washrooms. A letter from Lindsay dated September 9th indicated that the town could install some signage. Additional wayfinding signage will be implemented by the town or addressed by Devour Studios in phase 4, as we currently do not have any budget for it. Lindsay's letter of September 9th indicated that the town could assume some of this. We wanted to just know that the washrooms are in fact open. The front door is monitored during reception hours. Monday to Friday, we hired a front desk receptionist. Those of you may have met Brianna, who's now manning the front desk and has been with us for several months. Additionally, John Stewart's Only Nova Scotia Gifts and Crafts is open until 6 during the week and is open on the weekends, 10 to 5 on Saturday and noon to 5 on Sunday. So that does allow access to those washrooms at that time as well. So we in fact have access to the washrooms 7 days a week during relatively normal business hours. In addition, when there are public events going on, like our Christmas market the other day and pop-up shop for Lisbon Bites, the building is in fact open at those times as well too. Just a little accessible washroom progress update. Vincent, Dan Hartog, and James Collicutt recently completed a walkthrough and did identify some deficiencies for the fully accessible washroom, like a sign in Braille for the washroom, but they are aligned on moving forward. The project's future grants and the finishing of the building and the whole depend upon either future grants and the revitalization of our capital campaign, which has begun. We have several new board members, campaign members, including local people like Mark Vardy, who have joined our capital campaign and in fact have already brought donors to the project. We have in fact received 2 new capital donations in the last month of both $25,000 and $10,000 going towards our capital campaign. And finally, to wrap up, our generator has been installed and we have signed an annual service contract for it. It is in fact being commissioned this week. And this is as much a heads up for town staff to understand that we should probably work on some implementation policies and how to address what in fact would be usage and access and policies in terms of what would indicate the need for our generator's warming station. We did not do a full EMO, but we have what we would call a warming station where we can provide warm, the main hall can be kept warm through heating, and we can provide light bites and beverages in the times of crisis. So that's an update on what's going on. Our capital campaign is in fact moving forward. We have some grant applications to go. Sue should get back to us shortly about estimations on the deck, and with the town's contribution and Steve's, in addition to the potential from RBC, we should be able to get going in mid-spring or sometime in the spring of 2026 with the deck. I am open to questions.
Thanks, Mike. I just want to remind council that there is an RFD coming later in 6G for us to have discussion on council on that. But are there any questions? Sorry, for Michael as he's here. Whoops, sorry, I apologize. I don't see any lights on around the table, Michael, so there are no questions at this time. As I said, we'll be discussing this as an RFD later on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks for your time this morning, and I will forward this to Laura this morning, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
And good morning, Deputy Chief Chad Schrader. The Wolfville Fire Department is going to give us a review, or you are not off the hook. You are going to give us very vital information, and I will let you go.
It's all good. I've been asked to keep this brief, but people around the horseshoe and in this room knows I'm not very good at brief, but I'll do my best. It's hard to believe it's been a year since myself and retired Captain Ross sat here to give you guys an orientation after you're all newly elected into your next 4-year term. And we want to thank you for everything you've done for the community over the last year, and in particular, the support that you've given our members and our department over the last year. It's certainly appreciated. I always start our presentations with our mission statement. It always grounds us and really hammers home why we do what we do for no monetary gain. The Wolfville Volunteer Fire Department shall deliver fire suppression, prevention, and emergency response services with integrity, professionalism, and teamwork. The Wolfville Fire Department shall utilize the most effective technology, resources, equipment, and training available while meeting or exceeding the highest Canadian international standards. And of course, that helps, the support from this group helps us to achieve this mission statement. So again, we thank you for your support. I'm going to spend a few seconds on the organizational structure, just to remind everyone. So the Chief, Todd Kroll, reports directly to CAO Horn. They meet on a very regular basis. Then under the chief is First Deputy Chief Mike Whitman and myself. I will note that today is our last day of our 3-year term in that role. So this evening we will be doing elections of officers to elect the next 3-year term for our deputy chiefs. The next line is our captains, Captain Babcock, Captain White, and Captain Johnson. Also of note here, Captain Babcock has given us notice that she intends to retire as a captain on December 31st of this year. Kathy joined the department in 1995. She became a captain 20 plus years ago, and she's been in that role ever since. And I would like to take the time right now to publicly thank her for her service and her dedication and professionalism to the community. After the captains is Lieutenant Alex White and Lieutenant Riley Whitman. And then under those folks, we have 38 other firefighters that make up our team of 46 currently. We will also note that the captains and lieutenants elections will occur for January 1st. And we are starting a 2-year term this year. Usually it was yearly. And we're moving to a 2-year term for those key positions to just help with the stability of the leadership team over there. So we currently have 46 members on our roster. That includes mutual aid and a junior member. We have 1 junior member. Combined experience, this has actually increased. I compared it to last year's. We now have over 500 years combined experience within our department with an average tenure of 10.5 years. That's also increased slightly. In 2024, we had over 7,000 volunteer hours, and 4,000 of those hours, or the equivalent of 57%, was just incident calls in 2024. And so far, year to date, I actually had to revise this yesterday morning because the weekend was a little bit of a stir. So year to date, we have 7,241 hours, 3741 or 51% was given to calls. And so far, year to date, we have responded to 242 incidents in the town and the county. We'll touch briefly on our apparatus. So Aerial 41, as you know, we have ordered that. and it's slated to be delivered in the winter of 2029. The chiefs and myself went down to Florida in September to do our pre-build and make sure everything was the way we needed it. And so it'll go on the line for E1, and they're expecting a delivery of May 2029. Likewise, engine 11, we ordered that last year, and it's slated to be delivered to us in spring of 2027. Engine 12, as you know, was our newest apparatus currently in the fleet. It was just delivered in 2019. Tanker 21, it's our intent to combine that with engine 11. As you recall, we combined those two trucks for a pumper tanker, which is engine 11. So it's subject to review once the new pumper tanker arrives, how we proceed. Heavy Rescue 31, there's going to be a little bit more in our budget considerations for this. As you can see, it is due for replacement in 28-29 fiscal year. And as you can see by the delay and the delivery of the apparatus, we soon need to start the process for that because we're already beyond that 28-29 period for delivery. And then, of course, we have two light rescues, Rescue 51 and Hazmat Rescue 52, which is our two utility trucks. So incidents, I compared this to last year when we did this presentation because it was right around the same time. And we ended last year with 268 incidents. And this year so far today, we're at 242, and that's pretty much on par where we were last year at this time. So it's safe to assume we're on par to be in the 260, 275 call range again for this fiscal year. Of those incidents, 42 have been mutual aid calls in 2025. And this did change. Our common type of call is fire alarms now. Last year, it was motor vehicle collisions. Motor vehicle collisions has been bumped down to a second highest, and medicals have moved to the third highest, and then fire and all the other things fall in after that. So budget, of course, our operating budget, as with all operating budgets in all town departments, things seem to continue to rise and not decrease. So we'll continue to watch that. We're all getting ready to get into budget mode. So we'll work with our finance team to build out our capital plan for 2025-26. And we'll also work on our operating costs to determine what our needs are going to be for next year. We know that from a capital perspective, we will have to create our RFD for that pumper rescue replacement so that we can get that out to tender and award it so that it can get on someone's radar. Because as I said, we're already too far to have it replaced at the replacement date. We're being told that at current market rate, the approximate replacement cost for that apparatus is $2 million. So we need to certainly work together and see how that's going to fit in. So we'll work on an RFD early in the new year to get that to you folks for decision. The biggest next capital will be our personal protective equipment. So this year we purchased 10 sets of bunker gear, and it is our intent to do 10 more sets in the new year. And we're also going to start purchasing the equipment to outfit the new trucks because the pumper tanker is a different type of apparatus. There will be a requirement for different types of equipment, and we have a few years to start building on that inventory. So we're going to work on that as well. So funding investments, everyone hears of the firefighter 50/50 and its successes and its continued success in the province. As we know, the Amherst Firefighters Association created this in the midst of COVID in an attempt to try to help fire departments who are basically frozen and unable to do any fundraising activities. We're very happy to report it's still really, really making lots of headway and ground. This is the biggest month for our firefighter 50/50. The holidays seems to drive that jackpot in the $2, $3, $4 million range. And it's certainly projected to be there again. So because of its continued success, we're able to help offset some of the costs for operating and things. So this past year, we were able to purchase another set of hydraulic spreader cutters. That's the Jaws of Life So that total cost was just shy of $30,000. We did receive a $15,000 grant from the Eastern Kings Memorial Health Foundation. But our firefighter 50/50 funds funded the other, call it $15,000. The gym equipment, some of you have seen our gym equipment. We promote firefighter health and wellness. It also promotes mental health. So we are happy to say that we could spend almost $10,000 on upgrading to our gym equipment. The Ready Rack gear lockers, I think when you guys did your station tour last December, you saw the old wooden plywood gear lockers that were crammed full of stuff and showing signs of age. We were able to purchase brand new state-of-the-art Ready Rack gear lockers that promotes health and wellness. It allows the gear to breathe and dry and ventilate. And we purchased that solely using the firefighter 50/50 at just over $38,000. Wildland coveralls, we all know this past summer has been pretty brutal for wildfires in our province. Again, our members had a direct impact on both the Long Lake and Lake George fire. And during that time, we quickly identified that our wildland coveralls have seen their life. So we were able to secure a $26,000 grant from the Emergency Services Provider Fund, put forth by the province of Nova Scotia. And then we topped that up almost $10,000 to purchase 60 pairs of coveralls so that our members have safe coveralls for wildland events. And then we also, Nick made us jealous with his little tents. So we decided to get our own branded tent. So similar to the ones that you see at all of our town events, we purchased a tent at a cost of approximately $2,200 that's branded for Wolfville Fire. Other community initiatives, as you know, we have 4 elementary schools in our district, and we continue to provide fire prevention activities for all those schools. We have been asked to attend multiple things throughout the years at the schools, Remembrance Day ceremonies, playground grand openings and such. So we continue to support our schools and our young folks, and hoping that we can entice some of them to join us one day. The Wolfville Lion Club partnership, we've been doing that for 25 years plus. That's our ladder sit that we do during homecoming every year. This year was no different than any other, very successful. And we were able to give the Lions Club almost $9,000 as a result of that event. The Acadia Smile program, those kids love the fire trucks just as much as all the rest, and young adults. So we continue to support that at Acadia and deliver safety talks and tours of the fire apparatus. The HMCA's Make-A-Wish Foundation, this started like probably 15 years ago now. It started with us because there was a wish child in the town of Wolfville and they asked us for some support. And we never steered away from it. So we continue to give them a monetary donation, which is funded through our firefighter 50/50. And we also sponsor them here for a supper barbecue every September when they're running through town as they're making their way across the province. We also continue to support our current and former members with health and wellness. If they're having some trials and tribulations, we can support them through that. Last year we had Maggie as a co-op student and it kind of took off. And this year we have Logan as a co-op student. So he's here for 80 hours on Wednesday, just like Maggie, helping Garth next door with all those little things that need to get done, but we never have time to do. And Logan's been a great help for us there. And of course, the Santa Letter Initiative. We started this last year and we had just over 100 letters last year. It's not gaining as much traction this year, but we're certainly seeing some repeat customers. So we encourage the kids to get their letters into the mailboxes before this Friday at 5 p.m. That'll give time for the letters to make it to Santa's workshop so they can get responded to. And then it's our intent to get those back from Santa with the elves. And our members are going to hand deliver them like we did last year around the community on the week of December 15th. I guess that was brief. Again, I do want to thank you for your ongoing support. It's really appreciative and I would welcome any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Chad, for that presentation, and we appreciate everything that you do for the community. So thank you so much. I will open this up. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, well, I personally really appreciate everything you guys do for the community. I think it's outstanding, especially all the volunteer hours that you guys put in, and it is volunteer, it's amazing. But Chad, if you could just remind me, which vehicle is Rescue 31?
So Rescue 31 currently is what we would call our heavy rescue unit. So it is the largest truck in our fleet, with the exception of the aerial ladder. So it's the second one in. It's currently out of service right now. We're hoping to get it back today. Shows that it's time for its replacement. It took over a week to get the replacement parts that we needed to repair that truck. And it houses our Paratex, so those large struts that we use for heavy rescue, tanker trucks overturned, large dump trucks overturned, structural stabilization if there's a structural collapse. So currently all of that equipment is basically out of service until we get that truck back in service. So that's the truck that we were looking to replace, and it'll be very similar replacement, just a little better setup, because 20 years ago, the rescue struts and the Paratex really were much different, and now they're quite beefy.
Thank you.
If I may, I just have a follow-up to that, Councillor Elliott, if that's okay. I just wanted to build off that. I noticed that there's an RFD coming and it's about $2 million to replace that pumper Rescue 31. So how much time do you need? Like, obviously it's getting at the end of its life because you need to repair it. So when would the RFD come, and then would we expect it to come? Because it looks like it's about a 3-year process, right?
Yeah, so we'll hope to get the RFD to council within the month of January. That way we can get some feedback and criticism if there's any, and really start hammering that out. Once that's done, then of course we'll go through the tendering process, and we work with CAO Horn for the tendering process to make sure that we're doing that fairly and promptly. And then we'll award the contract like we did to lock in the pricing. And then from there, it will likely be a 3 to 4 year wait.
Florida?
If we choose the E1 platform, it would be Florida. But what we're finding currently in the apparatus world is the delivery time across the board is minimum 3 years.
Thank you for that. Councillor Elliott?
Yes, thank you. I'm interested in your outline of where the calls are coming from due to the call at Stackhouse last week. I was kind of alarmed to see the truck and thinking, oh no, there's a fire because everybody's standing outside, but it was an alarm due to construction, according to Garth. That's a change up in those numbers. Is there anything that can be done to reduce that number? Is it human error or equipment error, or where do you see that?
I think because our building codes are changing, and we're seeing a lot more multi-unit dwellings within town in particular, the requirement is that you have to have a monitored fire alarm system. So by its definition, the more you have something, the more likely it is that you're going to have a call there. The other thing is a landlord in town a few years ago had a near miss and rolled out fire alarms in all of their properties. Again, if you have a lot of these things, you're going to get some of them. Most of the calls are from different properties and different landlords, so it's not a repeat or nuisance call per se. We have reviewed with bylaw enforcement and the fire inspector some properties that we do have concerns with. And we'll continue to flag those with those two entities because they do have means within their toolkit, if you will, to deal with that. And we have a great relationship with Amanda and Caden and Marin on those fronts, and we'll continue to do that.
Mayor McKay?
Not a question. I just wanted to express our gratitude again for all of the things you do for our community, keeping us safe, and also having a little fun with the Santa card letters too. But this year was especially difficult with all the wildfires and covering off. So a huge thank you to the Wolfville Fire Department for all that you do for us. We just can't thank you enough.
All are there any more questions or comments for Chad before I let him go?
Thank you again.
I don't see any.
I appreciate your time, and our doors are always open if you want to have another walkthrough and see our new Ready Racks. We would welcome that for sure.
Yep, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeff.
And now we are ready for public input. Is there anyone in the gallery that wishes to speak or online? No. Seeing none, that was quick. We will move on to 6. So yes, we're on 6A. It's information report 033, 2025 wastewater treatment plant update.
Just as our folks get set up at the desk, I'd like to introduce to council our new manager of environmental services, Martin Kehoe, as well as the project manager from CBCL Engineering, who's been our point person on this upgrade since it's begun, Dave Trudell.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for having me. Yeah, thanks for that introduction. But so yeah, my name is David Trudell. I'm with CBCL. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I am David Trudell with CBCL Environmental, and Devin Lake and Martin Kehoe prepared an information report for you guys to support this presentation. So this presentation will kind of largely go through and summarize kind of what was in that report. So yeah, with CBCL, we've been involved with this project really since like 2023. And so the first kind of step, I guess, throughout this process was we did a bit of a pre-design study. And from that, we developed a number of options and selected the preferred option to move ahead with. And once that option was selected, we kind of moved through the various stages of design. So we went through preliminary design and then detailed design to create essentially a tender package or a document package such that bids could be let for this scope of work. And then, yeah, earlier this year, this project was tendered and subsequently awarded. So this is kind of really in a nutshell, an overall summary of kind of what we've gone through on the project. There we go. Yeah, sorry. Sorry about that. Got me there now? Sorry about that. I'll get right up on the mic here. So yeah, to give you a little bit of a summary about the existing treatment facility. So this facility dates back to the late 70s. Previous upgrades, I believe there was an upgrade in 1991, 2016, or sorry, 2013 and 2019. And then the most recent upgrades were in 2021. And that's, technically what we're calling the phase 1 upgrades. And that was done by another consultant. But generally what that included was the addition of a screen building and a UV disinfection building. And so if I don't know if you can kind of follow my pointer here to get just kind of a high level overview of what the existing treatment facility includes. But basically all the flow that kind of comes up to this treatment facility is pumped essentially up to this. You can kind of see where my cursor is here is what we're calling the screening buildings. And so the screening building is really designed to remove most of the objectionable material. From there, it will flow by gravity through the first lagoon cell in series. From the first cell, it'll pass off into the second cell here, and then proceed through that second cell to the disinfection building on the back end side here. And then eventually it kind of flows by gravity off to this drainage ditch. And from the drainage ditch, it throws through the abateau to the receiving water. And really the driving heart of the what's doing all the work here is really the existing, the blowers. So the blowers are conveying oxygen to the two aerated lagoons and really performing the heart of the treatment. So this facility would be basically classified as a secondary treatment facility, which really entails a biological treatment. So no chemical addition, nothing like that. It's really letting the microbes that are within the wastewater do the heart of the work. So this facility was an original design capacity about 4,500 cubic meters per day. And so this might be a little bit hard to see here, but essentially this is kind of like the overall scope of the work. And so if you we flip back, you can kind of see the existing two lagoons here. And so ultimately what we're doing is adding a third lagoon cell. And in doing so, we're increasing the overall capacity of the treatment system. So in conjunction with that third cell, we're also doing some aeration upgrades and some blower replacements. So really to try to beef up essentially the amount of oxygen we're able to put in to the treatment cells. So in terms of the upgrades, I kind of gave you a little bit of a summary there, but we're doing a aeration system replacement. And so when you see the two existing lagoons that are off to the, the page right, you'll see a bunch of these laterals that are coming kind of from the center berm, and you'll kind of see some white kind of from on either side of those laterals, white kind of, I guess you'd call it like a foamy presence. And that really what we're doing is diffusing oxygen into the lagoons with those. And really where the oxygen is coming currently is from this little blower building down in this corner. And essentially you can kind of see the two kind of blower pipes that would feed these two lagoons here. So ultimately at the end of the day, again, we're adding a third lagoon cell and then a new blower building / control building. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to take, move the blowers from this location, or they will be replaced, and put new blowers installed into this location. And then this will be kind of the primary driving force of the new treatment facility. Ultimately, this will also serve as kind of the main electrical service entrance for the facility and will essentially backfeed these two existing buildings from here. Also, as part of this work, we will be providing a new generator. And there will be an opportunity to kind of salvage that old generator that's on the site now currently for use potentially elsewhere within the town. Also, as part of this work and we'll see this a little bit better in the slides that come, we're doing what we're calling a flood protection berm. And so essentially that's to provide a little bit of, how would I say, a little bit of a protection from, future climatic events, I guess I'd say. And it's not so much the kind of the overtopping of the existing dike as it is so much the sheer amount of stormwater coming down you can kind of see this here. It's not a great shot here, but like there is a bit of a drainage ditch that comes down here, and the sheer amount of water that comes down this ditch and has to pass through the abateau does cause problems for the facility. And so we're providing a little bit of a protection for specifically the two low-lying buildings on the site. And the two existing low-lying buildings are the existing blower control building, as well as the new, fairly recent disinfection building. And so historically, you guys have had some issues in the past at those two locations. Also, as part of this work, we're going to be doing some sludge management. And I'll expand on that a little bit later as well, but we've kind of got the ball rolling there with a couple change orders to the contractor. And so right now we're kind of just awaiting some pricing for that. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we're taking the capacity from about 4,500 cubic meters per day, to 7,100 cubic meters per day, which is about almost a 50%. It's between 45 and 50% expansion on your overall treatment capacity. So to give you a little bit of background on kind of what the aeration upgrades will look like. Essentially, what we're going to do is these two cells here are kind of what we call partial mix cells. So the amount of oxygen that we're conveying into the cells isn't enough to completely mix it. So it's enough to kind of keep some stuff in suspension, but not kind of keep it fully mixed. And so what we're doing is we're going to beef up the amount of air that we're putting into that first cell in the series. So there'll be a lot more chains than what you see kind of currently within these two cells crammed into that first cell in an effort to try to get as much oxygen into that cell as possible. So I think in that first cell, there's a total of 18 laterals that are going in, and each lateral will have, you can kind of see these diffuser assemblies that kind of suspend down from a floating lateral. And each diffuser assembly has approximately 4 diffusers on it. And so when you think about how much air is going to be pumped in there, we're on the order of 27 total laterals split between the 3 cells, and over 300 of these diffuser assemblies that will be suspended within the lagoon. So really, again, it's in an effort to kind of beef up the amount of oxygen that you guys are able to convey into the treatment facility. And then the new blowers will be like a rotary screw style blower, which is a similar style to what you guys have there now. It's just a bit, it's a newer technology, and it's a little bit more efficient for these higher flows. And so these will also have an onboard VFD, and that was kind of added as a change order as well. But this is kind of, it gives you an overview of kind of the footprint of what that blower might look like. And so there will be a total of 4 of those that'll be installed within this new building. And really designed so that 3 will be operating at any given time, with the potential to have that 4th one as a standby in the future if a blower were to fail, or if you ever need one to take one down for maintenance or anything like that. In terms of the blower building itself, the new blower building will be designed generally to resemble kind of what you guys have on site currently. So it will be masonry block construction with like a face brick. So it will resemble kind of what you have there now. So on the, I guess, lower right hand corner, you can kind of see an elevation of what that building will look like here in the future. And then on the left hand side, you'll kind of see the floor plan. And so we have spaces for those 4 blowers we had just talked about, and operating kind of in a 3+1 arrangement. And so the size of those blowers, to give you some perspective, like you'll have 3 blowers at 75 horsepower and 1 at 60 horsepower. And so we'll also have on the side, kind of on the right-hand side of that building, is a small little electrical room, which will serve as kind of that new electrical service for the entire plant, and then backfeed off, like I said, to the existing buildings that are currently on the site. And so this is a bit of a better shot in terms of the overall flood protection berm. And really what we're trying to do is, based on a previous flood study that was done, I think it was in the early 2020 or 2021, I believe. And that was done by our water resources group. But essentially the top of the berm elevation, I don't know if you can kind of see that there, where it was deemed to be a safe elevation from a 1 in 100 year flood event. And so what we're trying to do is trying to provide a level of protection around these 2 existing kind of low-lying buildings you see here. And so the one on the kind of the far right would be the disinfection building, and the other one just to the left of that is the blower building. And really what we're doing is it's continuing that height of that berm around the 2 of these buildings and joining back in. You can kind of see the screening building up here in the upper left, joining back in at that higher elevation to provide, again, a little bit of a level of protection for those 2 buildings. And really, you get a better shot of kind of the area that has been prone to flooding in the past during these storm events. So right on the other side of the dike here is where the Abateaux is. And what happens is essentially when you get a peak storm event that also coincides with a high tide event, the Abateaux essentially is closed on the outlet side. And when that Abateaux is closed on the outlet side, the sheer volume of that stormwater coming down the ditch causes a flooding in the farmer's field to the, I guess, page left here. And when that happens, the effluent that's coming through the treatment plant essentially has nowhere to go. And so we do have a second level of protection that's on this, the effluent from the treated effluent from the facility. But essentially what happens if the level is so high within the discharge environment, it causes the flows to back up within the UV disinfection building. And then eventually it will get to a point where it overtops the floor in that UV building and then causes, it can cause quite a bit of damage to both equipment and infrastructure. And so as a kind of to work in conjunction with this flood protection berm, what we've done is we've included what we call an actuated valve on the discharge of the second, I guess, the final lagoon cell in the future arrangement, so that we can restrict the flows coming down to that UV disinfection building and prevent it from overtopping the floor within the disinfection building. And really what we're using there is the volume within those two existing lagoon cells. And then obviously when we add that third one, we have an even larger surface area to work with. And what we can do is use those volumes to equalize that flow during those periods. And so just adding, for example, a foot across 3 of these lagoons buys you something like, I don't know, 2 to 3 hours of extra storage. If you increase to about 400 or 16 inches, you can get almost full 6 hours, which is essentially like a tidal cycle. And so it's designed, and depending on how this falls, you may not need a full tidal cycle, but that's really the intent of this is to try to back some of that up to prevent this from happening again in the future. So that's really to deal with those kind of 1 in 100 storm events. And then as a separate project, to deal with kind of future sea level change and climate concerns, they're also looking at changing the height of the dike along the Minas Basin there. And so that'll be a separate, and that also provides an additional level of protection for the treatment facility as a whole. But you know, this flood protection berm is really to protect it against something else, not water overtopping that existing dike and creating a concern. And so we've had to kind of work with the adjacent adjacent landowner, and had some negotiations with them on site, over the phone and via email. And essentially we've arrived, you kind of see the original arrangement in black and down here. We've arrived at slightly a compromised version, in an effort to kind of mitigate the loss to the workable area of his field next door. And so we've kind of slid the berm back towards the existing buildings, steepen up some of the side slopes a little bit. We will install some erosion protection measures and stuff like that. But really, this was in an effort to kind of keep positive, a good positive working relationship, I guess I'd say, with the neighbor. And so far, really, I guess we'd say we have an agreement in principle to kind of move ahead with that. And so once we've kind of get this constructed, there will be have to be a negotiation to make sure everyone's in agreement with where that new property line might be. The intent would be that the berm would essentially be on town property, so that you guys could, you know, maintain and do anything you had to do with that in the future. But it also kind of maximizes his use of that existing field area. So far that's gone fairly well. Yeah. And then in terms of sludge management, as I said, the original budget, which we'll touch on here a little bit later, included an allowance for sludge management within the contract. So that wasn't within the contractor's price, but it was within an allowance that was carried separately by the town. And so we've issued a change order right now to do this, what we call a bathymetric survey. And think of this as kind of in very simplistic terms, it's almost like a depth sounder, very similar to what you'd see like a fish finder type of thing, to kind of get an elevation on the existing sludge within the lagoons. And so that sludge survey was completed in September. We got the report probably about a month-ish later. And you can kind of see a brief summary, like a heat map, I guess you'd say, on the right-hand side to give you an indication of kind of what that sludge looks like within the cells. And you can kind of see some of the aeration laterals in those gray lines. And then these darker kind of reddish lines or brown lines are the floating baffles that are within the cell. But really, I think the big takeaway here is on the back end of the second cell, which is designed to be a settling cell. So that's really where you would like to see all that material settle. And so that's where you see it the thickest. And then as you kind of work your way through that cell and into the first cell in the series, you kind of see on the inlet side where it's coming into the plant here, you can kind of see this little red dot here. This is kind of essentially where flow enters the lagoon, and it looks like you do get a little bit of material that does settle initially as it comes in. And then as you progress through, you can see it essentially settles between where the aeration laterals are. And so based on our budget that was available to us, and I think it's on the order of $400,000, I believe. And we'll touch on that a little bit later. And depending on how that contractor comes back with pricing. So what we've asked for is essentially a breakout price for a bone dry ton, essentially, of material that would be removed from the cell. And from that, we'll determine how much sludge we can remove. And then whether we need to kind of like, we can look at a total removal exercise, which, you know, based on the initial estimates, it looks like that might not be a possibility. So it might have to kind of steer towards a selective removal exercise. But we'll have to wait and see kind of where that pricing comes in. And the good thing with the kind of with this type of work, when you do kind of use a unit rate, you can essentially cut it short. And so when you start to approach your budget limit, you can essentially cut that off. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, in a perfect world, would you like to pull it all out? Yes. And that'll be something you will probably have to budget for in the future if we're not able to do that. But selective exercise will help in the short term for sure. Really what that implicates, I guess you'd say, in terms of the sludge is the total workable volume within your lagoon cells. So when you have, let's say, I think on average, we were looking at somewhere on the order of 600 millimeters to 750 millimeters, so 2 to 2.5 feet of sludge within each of those cells on average. And so that's workable volume that would cut down kind of on your overall retention time within the lagoon cells and would slightly impact your treatment. So this in addition to the aeration upgrades, this will help in terms of kind of your overall effectiveness of the treatment facility. So in terms of the overall project schedule, like I said, we did receive bids for this work back in April. And then the contract was subsequently awarded in May. Contractor, which is L&R Construction, mobilized the site in June. And then he anticipates, you know, and this will largely be dependent on equipment deliveries and specifically the blower equipment, which is a longer delivery item. But he's anticipating kind of spring, summer of 2026 startup and commissioning. And so generally what that will involve is once, you know, the blowers are installed, the new aeration system is installed, the generator's installed, there will have to go through essentially a series of checks. So like within the contract requirements is the contractors to organize with those equipment manufacturers representatives for them to come out, verify the installation, give a sign off that we're ready to start it up. And once that's received, we can start to kind of commission the treatment plant on the whole. I mean, construction wise, I think the construction season this year in terms of for earthwork was like fantastic. And so we were able to get quite a bit of earthwork done fairly quickly on site. And so that worked out in terms of our overall schedule. The recent kind of change of weather in terms of the amount of rain and stuff does kind of hamper things quite significantly, especially when you're dealing with a clay material, which becomes a bit unworkable when it does get wet. And that really factors into the flood protection berm because a lot of this earthwork is already done. It really just will impact this flood protection berm going forward. Now the contractor does plan to try to get as much of that done before the kind of the Christmas break as possible. So we may start to see that heat up again here in terms of truck traffic in the next couple of weeks. But really, these next couple weeks will be the time to try to get as much of the kind of gravity and manhole pipe, or sort of gravity pipe and manholes within the ground. And then really come, I guess, after the Christmas break, if the building is able to advance enough and get some of the brick on and stuff, the focus will shift to within the building and doing some of that work within the building during those colder months. So it's not, we won't be at a standstill over those slower, colder months, but we will be focusing our efforts on kind of internal type stuff that we can tackle during those times. In terms of regulatory compliance, so we submitted an application for approval amendment in July. And typically that's on the order of like 60 to 90 days, depending on the regulator and the jurisdiction when they respond. I do think in this case they responded here in well, just recently, within a week ago, with a request for information. And it appears the regulator that we were dealing with may have been off for a little extended period of time. So that probably attributed to some of that delay. And so there's a series of questions that we'll have to respond back to and answer his questions and concerns in an effort to kind of make sure we were able to move this ahead. One of the things we've also considered with Andy and the operations staff is potentially a temporary bypass through Aris. Now we won't have a full bypass as part of this work, but it does kind of give you maybe some flexibility in the event that we do see some deviation in effluent quality. It just gives you a little bit more flexibility there. So you won't be deemed to be out of compliance if you have a plan in place to deal with that. And really, in terms of the switchover, what we're going to have to do to facilitate this work and make the interconnections is the previous first cell. I guess we will be cell 2, but cell 1 currently, we're going to have to take that offline. And by doing so, we would isolate the flows from that, redirect flows around it, and basically we would transfer the contents of that lagoon to one of the 2 other lagoons when it's constructed. And as a minimum, we would aim to have at least 1 lagoon online at all times. So it won't be a total bypass. You will have some form of treatment throughout kind of the switchover process. And so that will include some secondary treatment as well as disinfection. So disinfection would maintain would be ongoing, I guess you'd say. And so that'll also have to be coordinated with the regulator, just so that they're aware of that and what that plan will look like. But yeah, we've had discussions with them ongoing for quite some time now, and it's just a question now of closing that loop. Yeah. And so right here, you can kind of see the other picture. We didn't get a great shot of that, but like this is essentially where the abattoir would be, and then flows would be slowly released out this way when tide subside. So in terms of financial implications, this was essentially taken directly from the information report, but so the contract with LNR Construction is on the order of about $7 million. The contract with CBCL is on approximately $350,000. The allowance that was included, we touched on that just briefly a while ago, was approximately $400,000. And then an overall contingency allowance of about $340,000 for a total project cost of just over $8 million. And then in terms of the federal contributions and the provincial contributions, $4 to $4.5 million. And then the town's contributions about 3.8, let's say. So in terms of kind of what has been spent to date, we've spent about $3.8 million, which is about 55% of the total budget. And then in terms of the overall change orders to date, so how does that factor against your contingency allowance? We've spent about $50,000 there. So about 15% of that overall allowance in terms of the change orders to date. One of the things that was included also too, and when I first seen this, by Devin and Martin there. I wasn't quite sure exactly what they might have been referring to here, but like now that I've seen it, I think I have a better understanding of what we're after here. But essentially like an educational opportunity. And I think that's twofold. I think it's an opportunity to educate, some people that frequent the area. Down there, a lot of people, walk and bike along Dyke Road, and then also on the top of the dikes as well. So to educate them on overall wastewater treatment. So maybe that's a sign there as well. And then provide an opportunity potentially to support some bird watching in the area as well. I know it was raised by maybe one of the counselors about just the number of species that do frequent the area. And I've seen a few of those myself when I was down there. So, I mean, this is just kind of a quick snapshot of, this one is actually from Nova Scotia that I kind of found, but it gives you like an idea of kind of what it could look like. And I've seen, like when you think of, the realm of possibilities here, it could be something obviously as quite as elaborate as what you see in, Peggy's Cove, which is quite, yeah, I guess for lack of a better term, elaborate look-off area. Or it could be, I've also seen just people kind of create a little bit of a boardwalk area that has kind of a bulb out that also does the trick. And so, the realm of possibilities there is quite vast. But there is an opportunity there if you guys wanted to explore that. Yeah. And that's it. So that was kind of a brief summary. Hopefully I didn't ramble on too long there for you guys. But yeah, if you have any questions or concerns, we'd be happy to answer them for you.
Thank you, David and Martin. You did a really wonderful job explaining that to people, maybe some of the people, including myself, that doesn't have a great knowledge about wastewater and is struggling to understand some of this. So thank you for your interpretation of explaining it to us. So I will open this up to Councillor Williams.
Yeah, thank you. That was great. Can I deal with the last point first? And that is, birders are tough. They don't need a roof.
You can brave the weather. You can brave the weather. Yeah.
I was really pleased to see the way in which you're going to cope with floods and high sea level. And I can see that working for some time yet, but obviously not forever. At the moment, do you increase the head in the ponds if you have difficulty with discharging through the Abertone?
Yeah, essentially, it's how it works is the water level on the out, I guess the outboard side of. So if I go to one back here, just. So the water level kind of, I don't know if you can see my cursor there, but the water level on that side really drives the water level throughout the treatment plant eventually. What's really controlling the level within the lagoons is kind of right around here is what we call a level control manhole. And so what that does, it's essentially a weir that maintains the operating depth throughout those ponds at about like 3.05 meters, which is like 10 feet. Give or take, right? And so that controls the level throughout the ponds. And then just downstream of that, in the UV disinfection building, there is also a weir. And what that weir does is essentially keeps the level for all those UV ultraviolet light bulbs that are within that UV disinfection channel. What it's trying to do is keep those bulbs submerged at all times. And so downstream of that, the receiving water, essentially what you do is you kind of work your way backwards from the highest level downstream of the treatment plant. And that level, when you account for head losses and stuff like that, will back up. And so the higher the level is on the discharge side, the higher that works its way back up into the treatment plant until eventually it doesn't have anywhere else to go. And that's really what driving it. And so essentially what would happen by closing this valve, that would be, just outside that disinfection building, it causes the level within those two ponds to raise. And so within those ponds is about 900 millimeters, so 3 feet about of freeboard. And that's, so what freeboard is like the distance between the water level and the top of the berm. And really that's to protect obviously to protect it from overtopping for sure, but it also provides a bit of like flow equalization for storage. And in a perfect world, you wouldn't want to hold it back longer than you needed to.
No.
But in this instance, it does provide a bit of flexibility for you to equalize some of those flows during those peak flow events. And depending on timing wise, you may never have to hold it the full 6 hours, but it does provide you some flexibility in there.
We could also drop the level, knowing that there's a weather event coming, we could drop the level in the cells to.
Right. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Sorry, Council.
Yeah, some treatment plants operate with some infiltration down through the bottom of the cell. You've not designed that presumably, or have you?
So the existing 2 cells, let's go back here. So these existing 2 cells here are earthen lined, so clay lined. And so using like a clay for like a low permeability material to prevent loss to kind of the groundwater table and that, you know, contamination, I guess, of groundwater sources. So that's clay lined. The new lagoon cell, I don't know if I get a great picture, I think. Yep. Well, this one will work too. The new lagoon cell is what we provided. So it's a slightly different arrangement, but that one will be HDPE lined. So it's like it's a geomembrane material that is kind of fused and welded on site to provide like an impervious layer. So it does kind of the same thing as the clay. It's just because we didn't have a great amount of workable material, we had to haul a lot of material in. And in order to kind of keep that down, the overall volume of the material we wanted to haul into the site, keep some of the costs down, we use this in lieu of a clay line. Coincidentally enough, that was kind of one of the questions that the regulator was asking, but his question was more so related to, you know, wells within the area. And so I talked with, you know, as a separate thing, I talked with the hydrogeologist there at our office. And so there are a number of wells, and the municipal well is 2 to 3 kilometers away, I believe, but there are a number of wells in the vicinity here, but essentially they're all up gradient of this treatment plant. So the likelihood is very low that there would be any sort of transport of contaminants, I guess you'd say.
I have one more question. There was a map in the package that we got that showed there was a pipe from one of the sewage pumping stations on the west side of town that seemed to go out onto the sports fields. It's a yellow colored.
This one here.
Yes, that's right. What is that? And has it ever been used?
I'm guessing probably like a lot of these pumping stations have what they call as like an emergency overflow. So I would think, and I don't know specifically about this station in question, but some pumping stations historically what they have is an emergency overflow, and the intent is that sometimes it's not feasible or economical just to pump the sheer amount of stormwater that comes down the pipe. And so, you know, and we kind of see the implications of the sheer amount of stormwater here. But generally speaking, during those times, the strength of the wastewater is also slightly decreased. So I think of it as a lot more rainwater versus a lot more wastewater. And so it's in an effort to, how would I say this? If a pump were to go down, or if capacity can't keep up, it's a way to kind of alleviate that pressure on the system. That's what that is.
So
That's part of your existing kind of, how would I say this? Is part of your existing sewage collection system.
yes.
Yeah.
So I guess this is more a question for Devin or Martin. Are we then still not completely isolating stormwater from wastewater? Because that's what you've just suggested, that there is not total separation.
Yeah, and I can maybe chime in a little bit on that too, and Devin can chime in, or Martin can chime in as well too. But so stormwater separation from wastewater collection systems is it's an ongoing challenge, I guess you'd say, and it's kind of not unique to you guys by any means. But it's a problem that is generally a long drawn out process, and it's not something that kind of typically would get fixed within a year or so. It's a problem that takes, you know, 10s and 20 years to fix. And so stormwater separation is something that kind of needs to, you know, be thought about for, I guess, planning horizons, I guess you'd say, and budget set aside maybe on a yearly basis or on a frequency that's, you know, that you guys can accommodate, to slowly pick off some projects. Or for example, like what you would do is, let's say you're doing a street replacement and the street replacement includes some water and sewer in there. Well, at that point in time, you may consider doing a separation for that street only. Do you know what I mean? And then you pick off the next street as you go. And this is something that kind of slowly gets addressed over time. And it's not something that would kind of be, we're not able to remove that in kind of one fell swoop, I guess you'd say. I don't know, Devin, if you don't have anything to add to that, no.
Are there any questions? Mayor McKay?
Oh, do you have a question?
Councillor Palmer?
Yeah. When I read the report, and this will be a question for Devin, I think, or maybe Martin. We're getting wastewater from Grand Prairie. Like what percent, like all the way, like all the Grand Prairie collection comes to our system?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, okay. So where does that get, that must be pumped somewhere, is it?
There's a pumping station in Grand Prairie that pumps it up to our wastewater facility.
Right down by the
King
park,
County Pumping Station.
right down by the park there. Is that where that is? Okay. The question that we'd asked in, we've discussed around the stable, or at least I've discussed with somewhere, we take the sludge off, where if we,
Yep.
well, eventually it's going to be picked off of there. I'm guessing it's kind of like a pudding when you take it out. It's not dry, right? Right? So do you dry it off? Do you dry it before you ship it? So
Yeah.
you take it off, put it in something, let the water run out.
So the previous sludge removal exercise, they created a bit of a sludge storage pond on the back end side, well, right about here. You can kind of see my cursor.
Yeah.
And so they dug a hole here some time ago. They removed sludge, placed it in here, and allow it to kind of passively dewater. This exercise is what we would call like it would be like a dredging event. And so there's a floating apparatus that would get deployed by like a boom truck or something. It'd be lifted into the lagoon cells. And what that does, it has a bit of an auger system that they lower down to the bottom of the pond, and they kind of go back and forth and like almost like vacuum out the sludge from the bottom. And so when they're vacuuming it out, what they're doing is they're taking that, they're pumping that to a shore-based piece of equipment. And here what we would be using would be like a decanter centrifuge, which is essentially like think of it as like it spins at like 4,000 revolutions per minute. And so it just spinning, and we add polymer to help with it, but like you spin it so fast that it essentially removes the water from the sludge. Not all the water, but a lot of the water. So for example, typical wastewater sludge in situ like that might be, I don't know, let's say 4 to 5% total solids. By the time we dewater it, you might be at 20% total solids, 20 to 25% total solids. So what that would look like would be like a sludge cake.
It's really cakey. You dry and it falls apart.
Right, okay.
It's not, not the cake you're thinking of, but
Yeah.
but it's like, it's not like sopping wet, but it's not dry, but just taking out that much water. If you were to have to truck all that,
Yeah, that's
you're just trucking water.
right.
And so you cut the cost down quite considerably. So all the water that gets removed essentially just gets put back into the lagoon cell. So they dewater it on the site. They load it to a truck. That truck transports it to, usually most of these facilities, this dewatered sludge ends up going to like a municipal solid waste landfill. They can use it as a cover amendment or blend it with other materials to to use throughout the landfill. Some actually just put it right in the landfill itself, depending on the facility. But that's usually where this material would go at the end of the day.
Which leads into my next question. Where's the nearest one of those? Like where, for example, could it go? I guess that's really the question.
This may end up going to Cogmagun. in West
Sorry?
Hants. Cogmagun landfill
Oh,
in West Hants.
Okay, all right, okay.
Do you have another
Uh,
sludge question? 'Cause I just want to follow up.
And the other, I don't have another sludge question.
Can I intercede and ask a sludge question before you go on? I'm not eating pudding for a while. Let's just put it that way, Councillor Palmer. So thank you for that one. Or cake. Thank you. But I just had a building on the sludge. That's a question that we get asked a lot. How often would you regularly clean that? And will it be less often because you have the third lagoon? And is that what causes the smell, is when you are removing all the sludge? Because we hear about smell. That's
Yeah.
so.
So, I mean, there's two different things there, I think. So in terms of sludge removal from a lagoon, that'll be case dependent, depending on the community, but like generally speaking, like 10 to 20 years, 15 to 20 years on average, for lagoons that are more heavily loaded than others. So like the wastewater is stronger, has more solids in it, that frequency will be increased, but usually 15 to 20 years. Some go 30, but 15 to 20 is probably the typical range to remove that. So like when you do an exercise, you ultimately have to start planning for the next one, essentially. And then your question in terms of smell, sometimes when you're dewatering, there will be a smell, but, and that's really just from suspending material up from the bottom. So that's more of a, down near the bottom, it's kind of getting, it doesn't get as much oxygen as it would, obviously throughout the rest. So you do get some of that there, but I mean, this year was a bad year altogether in terms of wastewater lagoons and odors. And so your neighboring communities had some issues for sure. And so really what happens is it's like you get a long kind of dry summer. The wastewater strength is a little bit higher than it would normally be as well too, just because of the sheer amount of water that's coming down the pipe. And so it's also harder during those extreme higher temperatures. So temperatures in excess of, let's say, 20 degrees C. Eventually the wastewater lagoon temperature is also over 20 degrees C. And what happens is it's harder to get the oxygen into the pond when the wastewater temperature is that high. And so during those times and events, what happens is you have carbonaceous biological bacteria that would be consuming, bacteria within the lagoon, but you also have nitrogen consuming bacteria. And during those higher temperatures, sometimes what can happen is the nitrogen bacteria can outcompete some of the BOD removing bacteria. And what happens is you end up with a bit of a shortfall for oxygen. And when you have a shortfall for oxygen, eventually you do start to see some odors. And usually when you're seeing odors from a treatment facility that is largely aerobic in nature, when I say aerobic, we're forcing air into it. It's usually because there's a bit of a DO problem. The inability to get enough oxygen into the wastewater during those times.
Also, just to piggyback on that a little bit, going forward on an operational means, we will be doing like mathematic surveys every year to see where we're at with sludge levels, to see how much we accumulate year to year, and then we can make a better judgment call on our solids handling after that.
So is it fair to say that aeration upgrades are important for not to have smell?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
There's my good takeaway.
No, I think that's really obviously it'll helps with odors, but it also helps with compliance. So like your ability, so this is like, you will have regulatory permit limits that would be assigned to this facility. It also helps achieve those limits.
Councillor Palmer, I'll put it back to you.
I want to make a comment. You didn't use any acronyms your whole talk until you get to the end, and you went into ARIS. Who's ARIS?
Oh, ARIS. Yeah, effluent. Oh God, I always like.
It's the federal.
So it's the federal government, and it's an effluent regulatory reporting information system. So it's essentially you take your essentially your effluent results and you would input them into this system. So it's a way for the regulators to track kind of the overall performance of this facility. And so what we might be able to, I talked a little bit to Andy a little bit about this, but like when they were out doing an inspection there not too long ago, they mentioned this as a possibility. As a means to kind of like, if something were to be upset during construction, it just provides you guys a little bit of a cushion in terms of your regulatory requirements. People are aware of it essentially. And so in order to make that application, operations staff essentially would have to log on online, and there'll be a series of questions they'll have to answer. So they go with, and I, based on my discussion with Andy, I said, like, if you log in, tell me what the, the questions are, we can help you, formulate a response to those. And so that there's something kind of on record essentially. But yeah, it's essentially an effluent reporting system is really what it boils down to.
And my other question is, I don't know if we know the answer to this, or if we can get an answer to this, but you're saying it's, the throughput is 7,100
On average.
cubic meters per day,
Yeah.
correct? And I guess there's two questions. Is there an average of what you would expect a typical, I'll use say household or person or whatever you would put through a waste system per day?
Yeah, so there's an allowance, I guess you'd say. So,
Yeah, an allowance. Sure.
And this is really out of the Atlantic Canada guidelines, but like generally speaking, a household, a person would contribute approximately 380 liters a day, which is like 0.38 cubic meters a day. Each person on average.
Right, okay.
And I believe, I don't have that number right in front of me off the top of my head, but like on a per capita basis for this community, it is slightly above that. I think we're in the, I can't remember, 400 to 500 range. If you want that number, I could give it to you. I just
So
don't have it.
I just want, which leads me to my next question is what percentage, like leading what Councillor Williams asked, what percentage of water, I'll use the word, of surface water are we putting through our system? Or do we, I know we probably don't know, but.
And I have that number also in one of my reports too, but like it generally boils down to, so I think in the pre-design study, what we would look at would be average dry weather flow and then average daily flow. And the difference really between the two is
water.
What the contribution, what the water contribution is. I mean, in very simplistic terms, I think that's a close approximation. Yeah, I have that number. I just don't have it right. So if you want it, you could maybe email me through Devon or something like that. I could get you that number.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you for everybody's questions, comments. Mary McKay. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, Acadia and Paul Arnold down there are doing some support work for the treatment facility. And they were involved, I believe, before this kind of, they've been involved for a number of years, I guess you should say. And what we've kind of like, they're, how would I say this? They framed it with like, what can we do to help in terms of, to kind of gauge, performance of the existing facility, and then how does that kind of compare to the future upgrades? And really what we suggested is we kind of look at the biological kind of degradation throughout the treatment cells. So how effectively are we treating wastewater as it passes through the facility? And so have like pre-existing conditions and then post-construction conditions, and really in an effort to try to see kind of, whether that performance, how closely it resembles to kind of what we anticipated that might look like. And so that's, like I said, been an ongoing agreement that you guys have had in place with Acadia for a while. And it kind of works twofold. So it gets people exposed to kind of wastewater and a learning opportunity, but it also kind of benefits you guys in the long run to kind of get an overall picture. I think when it comes to treatment plants, specifically when you're ever doing any sort of upgrades or anything in the future, it's always absolutely, you always want to know how it's performing on the effluent side, because that's what you compare it against. But like the strength of the wastewater coming into the plant is really what impacts the overall treatment the most. Right. And so if you have some background data on the strength of the wastewater itself, it does support future upgrades. So, I mean, this is a, you know, phase two. At some point, I think you guys will have, depending on changing regulatory requirements, you'll have to be looking at phase three eventually. And so that data will also support that next step, I guess you'd say.
Mayor McKitt?
I just wanted to say thank you. I think that is the first time I've ever heard that explained in that amount of detail and understanding. I just had no idea. And because it was funny. Yeah. Someone actually came up to us during our public engagement sessions and said, you know, I went for a walk and someone by our wastewater treatment said, gave them a synopsis or some education on that, said, we, the town, should put on an education system on what that was. And I thought to myself, how bored would I need to be to go to the wastewater treatment plant? But, sorry to that person, but I didn't think, yeah, but I did go, I went, oh, why? But now I get it.
Yeah.
That does make a whole lot of sense. And for people to see what that does for the town, I actually think that would be quite an educational experience. Yeah, but even to walk it through before that, like it would be super cool before it's done to host an event at the wastewater treatment and explain that with cake. Yeah, and pudding.
But,
Okay, now we are clearly.
but in all seriousness, like a lot of towns and communities have, like when they do open house days, a lot of people do open house events at treatment plants and do offer tours. So it's, you know, you get, sometimes people don't know what they're signing up for, I guess. But it does provide an opportunity to give some background, right? So.
100%. Thank you for that.
All right, okay, we're gonna wrap up soon, but you can have another question. Then.
This isn't a question, it's just an observation. I'm shocked at the amount of water that people are using. I'm the spreadsheet king around here, and I log my winter use of water, and it's 125 liters per person.
And how many people do you have there? Just two? Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So you're on the low side compared to most. Yep. Okay, thank you.
That's well done, Howard. Thank you. Great. Thank you so much. I echo everything that Mayor Kay said, and thank you to council for this intelligent conversation. So thank you. Until now, sorry. Okay.
Thank you so much. You take care. Howard, what was your number?
125 per person.
Oh,
it's a lot. Oh, yeah. Because when you work.
That sounds like a challenge. Yeah.
You appreciate it.
I want to hear. I'm not sure that's how it works. I only flush when I do that. When it's run out, I put you down when you get one. You're not getting to say that one.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, it's very.
Especially on bonus here.
It's shut down, isn't it? It's gone.
It's still showing over there. I need to pull it up on your email. You need to pull it up from your email.
Okay.
That's one of the shows, like, we broadcasting now. Can we put the cameras off or something? Like,
Yeah.
so my email being broadcast.
Yeah, we can't turn them off until.
Okay, let's try.
Is that your new wish list?
Let me try this. Try this.
Very difficult to keep my focus for good capital.
And then we said little, I thought it was good, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
I now want to make you add that.
Do we have,
Wastewater treatment plants of the valley.
do we have YouTube on? Can we see what it's showing?
Yes.
I have two questions. So at the very beginning. Yeah.
Section 6G.
6G.
Yeah. So when we get to that item, I'll mention that to you. Check. When we get to that item, you should be very confident for that.
And then I've.
Yes.
Okay, so I went back, so I converged the one, is that a lot or it?
It's gotta work.
Is that different than just basic?
It is.
Check,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
it's like none of the financial.
But
Is that, well, like our contribution costs per year, I haven't
So-
reviewed that, that's not, but is that something?
So that would have been.
That would be different than.
Something flashed up on screen, but
I saw that.
see, because I was typing and then and then
It just
it's
went, oh,
gone.
yep,
So I wonder if the guy here, I wonder if he clicked something.
I think he did.
So hopefully if it's just gone off, then that's fine. We can.
Like 5K.
We're-
Okay, was that?
Are we not on?
I don't think there, because there's nothing there.
Okay.
It would have been.
Let's go to your email.
Yeah.
We're,
So we do, it was stay high level.
Go ahead.
And the contributions are actually determined.
Okay.
But I think one of the steps here that just happened. As decision time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he left quite a while ago.
So that it's like a separate document.
That better, because I looked, I was like, oh, looks like something gets sort of reviewed every 2 years and it's something else.
Yeah, so there's an informal with no real definition every 2 years, which is what we do.
Ah,
This is the.
So there'll be-
leave and join.
Okay, so the informal was
Okay, welcome back. So we're moving on to 6B, which is RFD 047-2025, amendments to the Acadia ASU Wolfville MOU. And I'm looking at CEO Horn to guide us through that.
Thank you very much, Chair. The current MOU between Acadia, the Acadia Students Union, and the town was established in 2023. And in that MOU, there is a clause that facilitates a informal review every 2 years. So that informal review was completed at the administrative level between myself and representatives from the ASU and the university. And the recommendations from that informal review were brought forward to the Town and Gown Committee held on November 24th. In a nutshell, the recommendations were to just clean up more or less some housekeeping adjustments to clean up some of the language, to adjust one of our common goals surrounding community safety, to include some language related to the pursuit of new and innovative community safety initiatives. And then to add another common goal related to communication. And that really fundamentally boils down to sharing our story, both with stakeholders, with the community, provincially and nationally. Because we do have quite a lot here to be proud of as it relates to that relationship and more. So to create a common goal around just sharing that information. The administrative leads also suggested reducing the meeting frequency from 4 times a year to 2 times a year. The Town and Gown Committee, after receiving that recommendation, made an amendment to the recommendation coming forward and increase the, is that what my voice sounds like? Oh, that's great. Yeah. And increase that meeting number from the recommended 2 to 3 a year, just based on providing that public facing accountability and information sharing responsibility that we all carry. So the motion before you now is reflective of that change by the Town and Gown Committee. And the MOU that is in your package has been adjusted to reflect that change. So the motion, the draft motion that's before you, that council approve the revised MOU between Acadia, the Acadia Students Union, and the Town of Wolfville as recommended by the Town and Gown Committee, is reflective of that change of increasing number of meetings from 2 to 3. Yeah, I guess it's actually a reduction from 4 to 3. We had recommended 2, and the Town and Gown Committee said 3. Kind of split the difference.
Thank you, CAO Horn. Are there any questions to the CAO about this MOU? Councillor Palmer?
Yeah, it's kind of a general question, I guess. So I guess my own broader knowledge, I guess the MOU seems to be working and everybody's on side.
That's right. That would be my assessment as well. I mean, an MOU is simply a piece of paper and requires the ongoing and enthusiastic buy-in of all the parties, and I'd say that we've got it. We do have areas where we're not 100% aligned on every detail, but overall, in my experience here, we've had a lot of enthusiasm to find ways to work together and to align as best we can.
Mayor McKay?
Thanks. If I might just follow up to that, I think when we put this MOU into place, it was the tool that facilitated us coming together, because we probably weren't as together then as we are now. But as CEO said, it is just the piece of paper. I just want to commend both Acadia and our staff on really organically coming together on all the things that they do, because now they think about each other in a way that, maybe didn't happen in the past. So this may have started that, but it's the people that are driving this, not the MOU. So I just wanted to say thank you to our staff and to Acadia's as well for bringing us together.
Just to follow up on that, if I may, when was the first one signed? Do we know? And we know off the top of our head?
Our first term.
Yeah. Because 2023 is the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I read.
Was our first term, because it was the first one of its kind. And I think it is actually still the first one to MOU between Acadia, or between a University of Town and the ASU. We are the only one that combines the ASU into our MOU.
I'm getting from the back of the room that the first one might have been 18 or 19. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any more questions to CAO? I don't see any. Would somebody like to put the motion on the floor? Councillor Williams?
I move that the Committee of the Whole forward the following motion to Council for decision, that Council approve the revised Memorandum of Understanding between Acadia University, the Acadia Students' Union, and the Town of Wolfville as recommended by the Town and Gown Committee.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Councillor Butler, thank you. Are there any questions on this motion or discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? And that is carried unanimously. All right. So we will move on to 6C, which is RFD 049-2025, the Municipal Asset Naming Policy. And I see Barb. So I'll let you go ahead.
Good morning through the chair. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, great. Thank you. Pardon me. Good morning. So I'm here to bring to you this morning a piece of work that was noted in our very first equity and anti-racism plan. So this represents not only work done by the committee, but progress that we're making as an organization and as a community to really lift up those principles that we've outlined in that plan. So what you have before you today is a new municipal asset naming and renaming policy. So we reviewed some of our older policies for naming assets and naming streets in particular. And we looked at them with the perspective that we were not necessarily capturing the full diversity and the full history and the full excellence of all peoples in our community. So we've taken those away. We've had a lot of great conversation at committee. We've done some jurisdictional scans. We looked to other communities who have done a lot of work in this area, notably Kentville. We looked at their policy and the work that they did. And so what is before you now is our way of really understanding and allowing consideration for those who have been underrepresented and marginalized. And this is part of a more intentional effort to allow all people to see themselves as part of our Wolfville community. And the big change with this as well is we've historically received great support from the Wolfville Historic Society to support our process. And now staff will intentionally be going out to different communities and seeking feedback. And we will do that on an ongoing basis at a minimum of once a year, so that when it is time to name an asset in our community, we will have a robust list available, and those names will have been researched. We will understand the significance of those different suggestions, and that will give council better opportunity to make great decisions on behalf of more members of our community. And I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Barb. I'll open it up to council. Councillor Williams, I believe you had your light on first.
Yeah, I have a comment that was as a result of a number of discussions with someone who works for HRM on street naming policy. And she said that she felt it was very important to name streets if after a person, that person is dead. And I'm sure you can think of examples of street names, potential street names for people who, for one reason or another, some people might not want to remember them. I'll leave it at that. The other one is more of a question, and I'd like to know what criteria were used to not include Acadians.
I'm not sure I exactly understand the question. Could you clarify?
Yeah. You have a list of historically disadvantaged people, but Acadians don't appear to be within that list. And I'm surprised.
And thank you for bringing that forward. It didn't come up as part of our conversation. That would fall under 10.2. So that would fall under other cultural groups who we would consult with. If council feels that that should be named specifically, that's something that you could bring forward.
Yes, I think it ought to be specific, given that we are accepting the sewage from Grand Pre. You know, it's an Acadian hub, and I can think of many people that I know that have Acadian heritage.
So just to clarify, you're asking in the need for consultation 10.2 that we add the Acadian community or population to other cultural groups and not just cultural groups. So African Nova Scotia community, or is it somewhere else?
If I might.
Yes. Go ahead.
I was looking at 3.1. Is that where you were referring? So it says engage and consult with Indigenous African Nova Scotian, Acadian, and other equity seeking groups. We're seeking names, or is it?
Yes, I think so. And a lot of this comes from the fact that I come from a nation that is largely responsible for most of these dreadful things that have happened over the years. And so I have skin in the game, as it were. And I feel that the Brits especially did bad things to the Acadians.
So should it be added to 3 and 10 then? Like, is that what you're suggesting? Howard, or?
Through the chair, it can be added in all the appropriate spots.
Okay,
If the direction is to specifically name Acadians and the Acadian community as part of our intentional consultation, that can be done.
Okay, so I'm just looking at council. Do we want to add the specifically Acadians? I'm hearing the head nod. Okay.
Can I ask a question about that?
I think Councillor Elliott had her light on first.
Your question related?
Yes.
Mine is correct.
Okay, go ahead then.
Who do you consult in the Acadian community? Like, who do you use? Like, do we actually have, we don't have a whole lot of Acadians here, so who do you consult?
In the absence of a formal organized group, because you'll see in the policy, we name in the instance of Indigenous communities specific recognized organizations and communities. Whereas I believe with the African Nova Scotian community, we don't have a particular organization identified. We'd have to treat the Acadian community more or less in the same way.
Councillor Elliott?
I'd like to ask whether you consider patriarchy covered by these dictates.
Whether I do personally, I don't know if I have an answer to that.
Okay, so I'll just give you an example from the past, because to me it was very personal. I was sitting at the back of the room at the time. This was 10, 12 years ago. And a group of women came and asked the council of the day to rename Clock Park as an acknowledgement of Mona Parsons, because there was nothing at the time. And the councillors of the day, who were entirely male, said no. End of discussion. So the women of the community had to raise tens of thousands of dollars to have a statue created that now, thank God, as of 2017, sits at the post office lawn. So to me, that's an example of patriarchy at its worst. And through the Historical Society in recent years, there's been a strong attempt to bring the names of women forward for new streets because they haven't been acknowledged over the years. Like Laura Halliburton Moore and Jessie Jaggard, their names would have gone completely out of the historical record. So to me, that's very important. And I don't know how it fits with this, but that's my question.
Mayor McCabe?
So I'm not sure if this, well, I'm not sure any policy can actually take patriarchy out of anything because it depends on the people. But I will say when this discussion was being had, I would like to really thank the committee because when I left that meeting, the group of individuals around the table identified things like that and other instances where discrimination may have occurred. And I left with a real kick in my stomach, to be honest with you, because the discussion was pretty profound and I thought everyone brought those concerns to the table. And at the end of the day, we're comfortable with this. Because it was an intense meeting. Councillor Butler can speak to that too. But, and I think the voices around the table really wanted this to sound like this. So all I can say is I think that it's done that and we'll have a good measuring from staff bringing things forward with good recommendations. And hopefully the right people sit around the table.
Well, we do have more gender balance on council. So that gives me hope.
Councillor Ponder?
I don't know if this is a place to discuss this, but I'll ask the question and you can tell me it's not the right place to ask it. But is there places that we're gonna want to rename once we have this policy in place? Or is that something we're gonna address later?
Through the chair to the councillor, renaming was an important part of this policy. It's an important part, and I think referring back to what Councillor Williams was speaking about, sometimes we get new information and times change and communities evolve and perspectives change as well. So renaming is a part of this. There's criteria within the policy if that is needed. At this current time, because the policy is not put in place, I'm not aware of an active request to rename anything in the community. But if that were to come forward, that criteria is laid out.
May I follow up to that? We actually had a very intense discussion around the Equity and Anti-Racism Committee table because it's all in our minds after other municipalities have had to go through it. And kudos to the town of Wolfville that none of us could think of any area within the town that historically required renaming, which was Acadia we came into, but I don't think that's up to us. No, Acadia is completely separate. We thought of a ton of stuff on the Acadia property, but within the town of Wolfville, which is where we have jurisdiction, nothing came up, which was wonderful. And the way the policy was set up, which was also part of the discussion, was in terms of your comment, Councillor, about patriarchy, there is kind of a hierarchy of importance that now has to be followed as opposed to name it after a white guy. Nope, that's down at the bottom. It is now those of those marginalized communities first. Those will have to be considered when it comes to us. It was one of my favorite meetings thus far for the Equity and Anti-Racism Committee because it has been a point of contention for a lot of municipalities. There was a whole discussion at the NSFM conference in the spring, and some councils are not even bothering to look at it. They're just following the old ways. And I just Barb's done a lot of work with this and our committee did a lot of work with this. And I love our committee. It's fantastic. We got a lot of great voices. So that was just my comment on that.
Can I just make a comment? I think we also can thank our forefathers, because when the town was created in 1893, the decision was to name most of the streets after trees. So there was no, Linden, there was no hassle there. And that, I think, was pretty good planning.
Are there any more questions? I have full confidence in the Equity and Anti-Racism Committee. I was at the meeting last night and so impressed by the discussion and the thoroughness of staff and all the committee members. So I know that they talked about that thoroughly. So thanks, Councillor Butler, for bringing that up. So if there are no more questions, CAO, before we put this motion on the floor, do we have to add amended with consultation with the Acadian community or just as amended?
I can read a draft or a draft amended motion if you'd like.
Okay.
That council approve policy 110, municipal asset naming and renaming policy as amended in RFD 049-2025 to include appropriate references to the Acadian community.
I will second that, or I'll move that. I will
I
move
need to
that.
have, I
motion.
need to have a mover from Councillor,
Yeah.
Council. So
I
Councillor
will
Butler,
move
can you
that.
move that? Okay. Read that over again. Is that appropriate?
Sure.
Or, okay, so
No.
Councillor Butler, if you have it written down, can you read the motion?
Or, okay. I would move that committee of the whole forward the following motion to council, that council approve the policy 110 municipal asset naming and renaming policy as attached to RFD 049-2025 as amended to include the Acadian community in all appropriate areas.
And
Okay.
where this is, where the other two pieces of this motion are dependent on the first part, I'd advise that this motion include the next two clauses as well.
Yeah.
Should he say that
It
at
should
the
be
end of
built
that?
out as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
with the inclusion that council repeal policy 610-004 street naming policy and that council repeal policy 120-007 municipal lands and facilities naming policy.
Okay. So just to be clear, that is all like one motion?
It's all one motion.
Okay.
I can second that motion.
Okay, Council Parmenter, second that motion. Are there any questions or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote right now. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you for that discussion. So we have a couple of code of conduct is up next, policy revisions. Am I looking at CAO or, oh, Laura was getting up. So RFD 045-2025. Laura.
Yes.
Cheeky. Okay, so code of conduct amendments. So this policy is coming back again. Some legislation changes in October have caused us to have to revisit this. The report and the changes were highlighted in the report in your packages. The primary amendment concerns who's permitted access to the town appointed investigator to file a complaint under the code. So the recent amendment to the legislation stipulates that only elected officials may submit complaints to the investigator. Members of the public do not presently have access to this process. Further changes were some administrative amendments, including a definition of an elected official. There was some further clarifying information around the fact that elected officials cannot submit a complaint on behalf of someone else. And some amendments around clarification of the timing of when a complaint is discovered under section 5.19.8
which I won't go through, but if there are any questions, hopefully I can answer them.
I will open up to council. Are there any questions to Laura about the amendments? I do not see any questions of clarification, so I will ask somebody to put the motion on the floor.
Put the motion on the floor.
Thank you, Mayor McKay.
I would move that committee of the whole forward the following motion to council for decision, that council approve the amendments to policy 110-011, code of conduct policy for elected municipal officials as attached to RFD 045-2025.
And can I have a seconder for that?
I will second that.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. That motion is on the floor. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. You're just going to keep sitting there and we'll move on to RFD 44-2025.
Yeah, so the routine access policy came to council in October, again, due to some legislative changes. Since then, we've become aware of some confusion around some of the information that was contained within it. So I'll just go over that a little bit here. So the confusion was around the role of the review officer, who is employed by the Office of the Privacy Commissioner, and the role of the responsible officer, who is actually the CEO. So we reviewed it again with the town solicitor and the policy review task force, and an amendment has been made which clarifies the role for both those positions. So for routine access, the review officer doesn't have jurisdiction over whether to disregard a request under section 5.6 of the policy. That would be the staff holding the documentation or the records and the responsible officer for the town. So some language was changed to make that more clear, and something else. And I scribbled all over my paper, so I've lost my place. Oh yeah, so the other piece we wanted to make clear was that nothing in this policy, the routine access policy, prohibits a member of the public submitting a request under freedom of information. And in that case, in a freedom of information case, the review officer would have jurisdiction to decide whether we could disregard a request under section 5.6. Clear as mud.
Thank you. I'll open it up to questions. Councillor Williams.
Thank you. To improve clarity, I wonder whether in section 4 definitions, you might include responsible officer and review officer, because those terms are used in the text. But unless you know something else, you don't know who they are or how they're appointed and who employs them, etc.
Do we want to have discussion on that? Which point was that in the policy?
It's section 4 under definitions, towards the front of the document. You know, there are things there that are defined, but there are things in the text that are not defined, and I feel they should be.
Yes, do we want to have a discussion on that or have clarity on that? I'm looking at council. Mayor McKay?
So if we did add those two definitions to 4.0, does that substantially change this and need to go back to legal, or adding definitions in that manner would be
Yeah, that would be fine.
reasonable?
We can add the definitions and bring it back to council. Those changes.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, the definition that would be provided would be straight from the Municipal Government Act.
I would concur with that.
So it's a straightforward like amendment.
Addition.
Okay, addition, yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm looking around at council and everybody's nodding in their head, so we're fine with that. Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions to Laura? I don't see any more questions. Wondering if we put the motion on the floor as that amendment to that, Councillor, or sorry, Mayor McKay, would you like to put that motion on the floor with that amendment?
Sure. I would move that committee of the whole forward the following motion to council for decision, that council approve the amendments to the routine access policy 120-010 with further amendments to add 2 definitions of responsible officer and review officer.
Thank you. And can I have a seconder for that? Counselor Elliott, thank you. Are there any questions on this motion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Are you going to remain up there?
No, I'm gonna just
Yes, there you go.
hanging out.
We're moving on to Committee of Council meeting schedule for 2026. Laura, go ahead.
Okay, so since this was circulated to you, we have added some more things anyway, and it's probably going to change again before council. Such is the nature. So a couple of additions. On January the 5th, we have added in the RCMP Advisory Board orientation, which is being provided by the Department of Justice. That came in. We don't actually have a time and location yet, but we are going to offer that out to all council as well, because at some point you may be on that particular board. And then either January 6 or 7, we have RCMP Advisory Board Strategic Planning. Same, don't have time or location yet, TBD. Department of Justice is doing that for the board as well. So those are 2 additions, and we will hopefully find out that information soon. The 5th is for the orientation, and the 6th or 7th for the strategic planning.
Are there any questions of council? I know that this.
I was going to, sorry, I'm not done. The other
Or
thing,
more.
just with regards to the town and gown, or sorry, the Acadia, the MOU with Acadia and the SU in town, the amendments, the January meeting that's in the calendar that you have now has been removed. So that's another change. Everything else was in the report. The only other thing was in June, we usually move council and committee of the whole meetings forward a week because of the international town and gown, but that's in May this year, so we didn't have to make that change.
Thank you. I guess noting before Councillor, noting that this schedule obviously can change at a moment's notice, depending on weather, et cetera, et cetera. Councillor Elliott?
Yes, thank you. I kind of took special notice of the accessibility meetings being chair. And I noticed that there's one occasion where there's meetings 2 months in a row, which is not typical. So I just thought I'd put a question mark there.
Do you know what months?
I think it was January, February, or February, March, something like that,
Okay.
early
Yeah,
on.
I'll look at that. I think we took out the January one. That's right, Barbie. We took the January one out, and I think we're doing February and then April. So
Yeah, because we're
I'll-
meeting next week.
Yeah.
So January
That's
makes
fine,
no
I'm doing
sense.
January. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Councillor Butler?
I noticed that the spring and the fall NSFM were not on there, and because the dates are not on their website, but at my last equity and community wellness meeting, they mentioned that the spring conference was the 6th to the 10th week. And he mentioned the fall conference was the 3rd to the 6th. So
Okay.
that was an NSFM. It's not on their website, but those were the dates that an NSFM rep on our committee mentioned, because each council is planning ahead. They could be wrong. He could have been wrong, but those were sort of the preliminary, the tentative dates that they had looked at. So I know the spring NSFM falls in quite a busy week, and not so much in November, although now I look, Remembrance Day is in the middle of that week, so I'm assuming he might have got those dates mixed up.
I have a contact at Eman, so
Okay.
I'll reach out to and see.
Yeah, so those were just the sort of tentative preliminary ones that I noted, but they could be wrong.
Mayor McKay?
So I just have a question on process. I mean, we're doing it we would approve this as saying, this is what we plan on doing, but it changes
Yeah.
depending on, we have more meetings, we have less meetings, just depending, we move meetings depending on availability of our community members. So can we still approve it as this and say, it's a.
Additions expected.
Yeah, I mean, that's in the report as well. Like,
Yeah.
It's subject to change.
I mean, it changed between last Wednesday and
Like
today,
Wednesday,
so.
yep.
Yeah, and today, yeah, so.
I guess so the question to add to Mayor McKay's comment is, do we need to add that word at the end of the motion? Or is it? Because we can expect changes. We know, we know
Yeah.
we've already had some changes, so.
The RFD, the motion refers to the RFD, which does
Okay.
include that those dates are subject to change.
Okay, so we don't need it. That's the question. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Any more questions of Laura? Seeing none, I'm looking to somebody to put the motion on the floor. Councillor Butler.
I can do that. I would move that committee of the whole forward the following motion to council for decision, that council adopt the 2026 council and advisory committees of council meeting schedule as attached to RFD 048-2025.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Elliott, thank you. Are there any questions on this motion? Seeing, I'm assuming you don't have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, assuming there's no more questions, I'll call I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to 6G, RFD 050-2025, Devour Deck Timing Extension. Councillor Palmer.
I'm going to recuse myself from this debate.
We've had a brief presentation by Michael Howell, but I'm looking at Director Lake to present a little bit more.
I don't have a whole lot to add other than what was in the report, but I just thought it'd come up and there may be questions about regulatory role, but essentially what's in front of council is an agreement that's been amended to reflect the request of Devour for another year to extend the funding around the deck on the north side of the building. We have been in the building recently inspecting the bathroom, not me personally, but our building inspector. And as Michael alluded to, there have been ongoing conversations just around consistency of public bathroom signage. That's what he was referring to. So that would include the library, Railtown, and Devour, trying to have something that's consistent. So I'll leave it there and can certainly answer any questions.
Thank you. I'll open up to council. Are there any questions to Director Lake? Councillor Williams?
Yeah, I only have one question on that. I'm not sure. I may have asked it before, but I'll ask it again anyway. In the plans submitted in the report, there was no cross-section showing the height relationship or the elevation relationship between the deck and the proposed raised dike elevation.
So the upper limit of the deck, there was discussion on whether coming out of the doors on the north side of their building, whether it would step down or whether it would be, you'd be stepping right onto the deck. So that we required them to use the top elevation that they have. We are actually in the process of marking the elevation in the park so people can see what the dike elevations will be. We had done that in the past as part of some of our climate plan work, but now that we have more precise elevation work, topographic survey, and we've been working with the same engineering consultant that the province has been working with, so we really know where those elevations are. The question is on that is where we will put the berm. So it could be up against the foreshore. It also could be anywhere from there all the way back to adjacent to the Devour building. So that's the process we're just getting into now, is bringing information to council on what those options would be.
Mayor McKay?
Thanks. So I have two questions. Is that the deck the same plan as what we saw previously? Because I thought it looked different, but I couldn't remember exactly what it looked like. It's exact same as what was presented to us. Because there wasn't as many drawings in this one as there was the last one. So I just want to make sure it is what we think it is.
I don't think there's been any substantial change
Okay.
that I've noted, but if I can talk to our development officer and building official to just we can do a comparison, but from what I could tell, there
Wasn't a
weren't.
lot, okay. My second question is, so this has a ramp to get onto the deck, so it is accessible. And so when you just mentioned that this, when you get to that top level of the deck, which will go in the door, is that going to be accessible if you have mobility challenges to, will the deck come up to the door? And is that door going to be wide enough for someone to come in? Because otherwise then it becomes a whole other, you've got to go around the building and come all the way around to the other way to get into the building, or is it accessible?
No, it's all, that's all part of meeting our building code and meeting the requirements of our building inspector, who would be on site doing all of the inspecting of this. And absolutely, it has to be accessible. Yeah.
As long as it's accessible. Great, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you for that clarity. Looking around, are there any more questions of council? All right. Can somebody please put the motion on the floor? I'm looking at Mayor McKay, thank you.
I would move that committee of the whole forward the following motion to council for decision. The council approve the attached MOU amendment number 3 with the Slow Motion Food Film Fest Society and direct the CAO to sign and execute this amendment to enable an extension to the deck construction on the north side of the Devour complex on Main Street.
Thank you. And is there a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Councillor Butler, thank you. Are there any questions on this motion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to the last of the staff reports, an information report, 032-2025. Good.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I was like, have I done something wrong again? Did I jump? And I was like, or are you just pushing me too fast? You're now- No, okay.
I apologize.
Okay. I will go back. I'm moving on to the last, it's information report 032-2025, a quarterly ops plan. I'm looking at our CAO who also has his light on.
Thank you very much, Chair. So as approved in our operations plan, I am providing the second of 2 in-year updates on our operations plan. The final update will come with the consideration of next year's ops plan as a transition point to assess what's been completed, what will be carried forward, and what new work will populate next year's ops plan. So there's an IR in your package, which continues the same reporting approach that we used back in June, which essentially indicates what projects are complete, which ones are still in progress, which have yet to be started, and there's a significant number of initiatives that are in the ops plan that really don't have a finite finish. They're what we would call ongoing. So the work will never actually be completed on that. Just a couple of metrics for you. In July, we had 80% of our work was in that ops plan was ongoing or in progress. Today, we're at 68%. In July, we had 8% complete. Today, we have 28% complete. And then there were 10 initiatives that were yet to start in July. We're down to 3 initiatives here in December. And those 3 initiatives I can project forward likely will not take place this year. So we would look to see if those go into next year or not. I'll also note substantial work has gone into many of the in progress or ongoing initiatives. And progress has been made on basically all of them. Most are expected to be completed before fiscal year end, and those that are not will be our starting point for next year's ops plan. A significant amount of everyday core operational work is not included in the ops plan, but it does occupy a significant amount of staff's time. We've also encountered multiple unforeseen events so far this year, which also occupy our time and take our attention away from initiatives that were identified in the ops plan. Just a couple of more recent ones, the activation of the Kings Regional Emergency Management Coordination Center in response to the Lake George wildfire from September 29th to October 8th. There were 7 or 8 municipal staff involved with that activation, and in the time that they were in the ops center, they were not available to the town of Wolfville for what they would typically be doing on those days. The other piece that I'll draw attention to is a little less in our control, but has occupied a fair amount of time through this year, and that would be proposed policy and program changes from organizations that we have some sort of an association with. Whether that be the NSFM, the provincial government, other intermunicipal organizations that we are partners in, when they come forward with potential changes that affect the town, that requires a marshalling of resources from the town to do whatever, whether it be assess the proposed change, whether it be to carry those changes through. As you saw today, a couple of RFDs related to change in code of conduct or routine access. So when those changes in approach from other bodies that we are associated with come forward, they're very hard to predict in terms of timing or resource allocation, but those are part of, we have to make room for those oftentimes with what we're doing. Despite some of the challenges that we've had through the year, specifically in terms of staffing, I'll also note that as of today, we have run 14 staff competitions since February. And that does not include our annual intake for recreation folks and parks and public works folks who come to us on an annual basis. So we've had a lot in terms of change in our staff complement. We've not had a single day in this fiscal year that we've been at 100% staffing. So that has created some challenges with moving initiatives forward. Despite that, I will say, in every challenge, there's an opportunity. Despite that, it has been absolutely incredible to watch different folks from across our organization rally and take on responsibilities or initiatives that they wouldn't necessarily typically be involved with and move an incredible body of work forward. When it's all said and done, you look at a metric like 28% of our initiatives complete. That metric is really not telling the full picture of what we've achieved so far this year. That number will be substantially higher when the fiscal year is complete. But even then, the amount of activity and the progress we've made on a number of strategic fronts has been quite impressive to be a part of, in my opinion, and it's due entirely to a staff team that has taken every challenge as an opportunity and has driven as hard as they possibly can to meet the mark with both our operations plan and our new strategic plan. So I can't thank them enough for everything that they've been doing. Maybe I'll leave it there. I'm not going to highlight any. I've highlighted some specific accomplishments and initiatives in the IR, and then all of the highlighted initiatives that are in the ops plan are also attached. So maybe I'll stop there and I can try to address any questions that you might have.
Thank you, CEO. CEO Horn, I just want to say that I really appreciate the plain language and the large legend that you have. So sometimes when you're reading, you just go over to the legend really quickly and you can see where we are. I do agree there's going to be some that are never really completed because they're always ongoing because we're always working on that. So just at that comment and thank you to CAO for all your work and staff for all your work. So I'm going to open it up to Councillor Williams.
Yeah, I like the way it was presented. I have a question. What's the difference between in progress and ongoing?
It's a working difference. We just in discussion, SLT, we're going to try to improve upon that metric for next year. In a nutshell, If we do anticipate an end date, and we've made progress on that end date, it is in progress. If we do not anticipate a finite end date, it is ongoing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mayor McKay?
Thanks. That's what I assumed, but
Yeah.
oh, did you have another question?
Uh,
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's at the bottom of page 5, grocery store public art. It says in the third bullet point at the bottom of the page there, installation expected April, May 2025. Should that be 2026?
Yes.
Right, okay, that's fine. And one final thing, it's hopefully a very simple question. The Memory Cafe is grant funded. Who grants the funds?
I'll look to our manager of community development, Nick Zamora. We'll take that question.
We've had a few different grants that have supported that. One was the New Horizons for Seniors. That was for the last few years. This year we did not get that one, and we got another similar size grant from the Nova Scotia Mental Health Foundation. And also have received funding in different amounts over the years from Mud Creek Rotary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor McKay?
Just a question. All of the departments have the in progress, ongoing, etc. on the right-hand side, except the Office of the CAO. So just wondering what you've been doing. No, just kidding.
Did you not hear me say it's all staff? I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. Yeah. Sorry, I think I'm just looking at that now. I believe that's a formatting issue. So if I find correctly, no, it's not there. There are those signs somewhere. They may not be, I'm looking in your package. They might not be in the package, but that's a formatting issue. So we'll circulate the table again so that all columns are captured on a single page.
Okay, and I think it says on some of them ongoing anyway, and I think we know,
Yeah.
but just for public, they should know
Yeah.
what it is as well. So yeah, just thought I'd point that out.
Thank you, Mayor. We all know and appreciate how much work CA Warren does, so.
Totally.
Yes. Are there any, Council Proman?
Oh, it's not really a question. I'll just make the comment. I really like that report. I mean, I think that's pretty concise and I really am helpful where the overall picture of when people are asking what's going on with this. I don't have to go ask you. It's just, it's there, it's out in the open. And I really appreciate how much work got done this year. It's pretty impressive.
No, thank you very much for that. And like I said, the staff team really took it upon themselves to, once the council set that direction, to really move as much as we possibly could forward. There have been, I'll be honest, with the changes, with some of the unforeseen issues that we encountered and with some of the staff changes, it was a challenge this year to perform at the level that we did. But I can't thank both the senior leadership team and every staff member enough. They've pulled together in just an absolutely magnificent way and moved an incredible body of work forward.
Mayor McKay?
I would just like to echo those comments. I have the privilege of spending some time here with all of these lovely folk, and I am always amazed at what they get done, but what they get done with the positivity and enthusiasm and laughter that happens. It is quite exceptional. And I don't think we should sort of undervalue that, because everyone who's coming to work and enjoying the work they do and the people they do it with really show to our public and to our residents. So kudos, Glenn, to your leadership and to the staff who do this work day in and day out. It does not go unnoticed. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
I think all of council echo that. So thank you for that statement, Mayor McKay.
And it does come from the ability we have to move that forward with the, is joviality a word? It is now. It comes from the joviality there. Thank you very much. It comes from the stability and the vision and the trust that council shows in us. And so that can't be underestimated as well. Some of the stuff that we all do together can be challenging, and we approach it in an incredibly professional and jovial way, which I think is to all of our credit, including the folks around this table.
All right.
All right.
All right. I don't see any more questions or comments, so let's have a look here. I think you were still on, Glenn. We're going to move on to item number 7. It's the CEO report.
Right. Just a couple of quick points. I won't go through everything in your package, but I do want to draw attention to a few handful of things. Related to homecoming weekend debrief. So on our side of the ledger with the town and the RCMP, I would consider the interventions and the activity from town compliance and the RCMP to be on the whole very successful. We did have a number of student parties throughout town that the vast majority of student behavior, and when I say vast majority, I mean almost all of it, was incredibly respectful, incredibly reasonable, down to the individual interaction. That said, we did have a number of calls for service to the RCMP, 30 in fact. And a breakdown of those calls is in your package. As we move forward with Acadia, we've made it clear, and there has been acceptance and effort put forward by Acadia to see this come to fruition. There will be ongoing discussions related to some form of on-campus event to try to de-escalate and provide another opportunity for students to have fun and participate in these celebratory weekends that does not result in street closures and overcrowding of houses and increased burden on enforcement staff and regulations, including both our compliance staff and the RCMP. So I really look forward to continuing to work with Acadia to see what those kinds of, an event like that could look like. Moving to another event, the Night of Lights was held just on Saturday and was, I think, a wild success by every measure. So again, thank you very much to our Manager of Community Development here in the gallery today, Nick Zamora. We don't have an exact number of participants, but we estimate probably in total, probably about 1,000 folks came through Clock Park over the course of the evening. Wolfville Glows includes programming in town throughout December, as well as decorations of Wolfville with festive greenery and lights. If you haven't taken the opportunity yet to walk from Willow through the Rec Hub area down into Waterfront Park and really get a full sense of the Wolfville Glows, please do. It's absolutely spectacular. And I'll also mention all of the lights that you see hung, whether it be on an arch or in a tree or something of that nature, was all done by our park staff. They've been working on this for some time to deliver a really top-notch experience for our residents. So thank you to them as well. Into the programming side of things, Wolfville is offering another period positivity workshop on December 7th with some spots still available. This is a fun educational body literacy workshop that restories menstruation and the female body for preteens, empowers youth age 8 to 12, and their parents or caregivers with the knowledge that they need to have a positive relationship with their period and cycle, and more information is available on our website. The Committee of the Whole is meeting in a special session tomorrow evening to discuss the Housing Accelerator Fund implementation program. So that will be held here in the council chamber, weather pending, and provide some future guidance on how the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw will be further adjusted so that we can facilitate some decisions related to those documents into the winter. Harvest Moon Trail upgrades. So if folks have paid attention to the area between Elm and Harborside over the course of the last week, we now have mostly a 3-meter wide concrete trail between those 2 points. Weather has proven a little bit of an obstacle to complete that section, but that project is coming along quite well. And as well, on your way in this morning, you may have noticed that the old burial ground fence has not only been cleared of debris, but it's now been cleared of a fence to make room for the upgrades that are coming for that as well. Yeah. A gear switchover has begun for winter works in anticipation that may be used later today. Tires changed on tractors, snow blower installed, and supplies have been ordered and are on hand for whatever kind of winter weather we'll be receiving here later today. The Oak Trail culvert and trail has been replaced and trail section raised in elevation. Right now there's type 2 gravel in place and there'll be the addition of crusher dust at a later date when the weather's a little bit more agreeable. Yeah. Asphalt patching is now complete, and Loomer street sweeping took place, I believe, on Friday. So you would have seen the Loomer's vehicle making its way through town. On the water utility side, 3 new SCADA radios were installed at the well houses and water treatment plant to upgrade failing radios. And just again, the SCADA system is the system that allows our operators to communicate with the treatment facilities and the various plants and apparatus that we have. There's a development update in your package as well, which I won't go through. And I guess I will leave it on, I'll leave it here. A request for proposal for a new 5-year audit contract was issued last Thursday, I believe. And that will close just before Christmas, so that the audit committee, council on recommendation from the audit committee, will have a decision to make sometime in the winter related to our audit firm going forward. And I will leave it there.
Thank you again for that fulsome report. I'll open it up to council if you have any questions or comments. Council Parmenter.
Thank you for your report, CEO. The asphalt paving, did we get as much done as we had hoped, or did we fall a little bit behind on that?
I'll ask Director Lake to comment on that.
Is this, yeah. I think we achieved what we were setting out to do with water main breaks and different more reactive stuff. We did get all of that completed. If something happens now, that's where we get a little bit behind. So the stuff that happens at the very end of the season, but we completed everything we wanted to. Yeah.
Any questions? I just have a quick question for Nick, actually. Kudos for Luke Moffat, our recreation programmer, for winning that award. That's awesome. I just wondered, just reading about the passport, did we highlight in the passport, did we highlight our new recreation hub? Was that part of what Luke was presenting in that?
That would have been part of it, but it was that award was for kind of a larger collaborative effort with mostly New Minas and Kemptville, but the whole Valley Corridor on what was happening in June, as June is National Recreation Month. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, no, I just wondered if that was part of it, because we're also proud of the recreation hub and Luke has done such a wonderful job. I just wondered if that was incorporated or I mean, obviously the different municipalities working together to highlight the region. And I was just wondering if that was part of it.
Sure. Yes, it was part of the program. And I think there was like some scavenger hunt type activities or passport type things. The rec hub would have been certainly part of that.
Well, congratulations to you, Luke. So, Councillor Williams?
Yeah, many thanks for putting up the owl boxes, which was originally suggested by an angry young man who met with Nick, I think. I hope the owls enjoy their new home.
Did you have more of a comment, Councillor Butler? No. Okay. That was a good one, actually. All right. Looking around and I don't see any more lights on, so we shall move on. We are moving on to number 8, committee reports, internal Planning Advisory Committee, verbal report, Mayor McKay.
Yeah, so I think, well, a lot of us sit at that meeting, and Councillor Williams was also in the gallery. So it was, I just want to say kudos to the Planning Advisory Committee for getting through all of that NPS and land use bylaw documents with all of the recommendations that are coming back to us for tomorrow evening, weather permitting. But it was an incredible discussion, and I can't say enough about the committee members who came thoroughly prepared with incredible feedback and suggestions for us to consider. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And everything that they highlighted is going to be presented tomorrow night at our committee of the whole meeting. But I really can't thank them enough for their insight and thoughtful consideration and feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor McKay. If you don't mind me adding, I just wanted to thank Bev Boyd, who has been a committee member for Laura, 5 years, 5 or 6 years. And she was our heritage rep, and she provided so much valuable information, and she's certainly going to be missed. So thank you for all her work. Thank you, Bev, for all your work. Are there any questions or comments to Mayor McKay? As we know, there's so much coming through planning, and we're going to be talking about it tomorrow. I don't know who had their light on first.
One's this point. I'll just point out that the meeting we're having tomorrow night, I was asked this 3 times yesterday, which shocked me. It is open to the public, and we generally do not speak. We do not meet as a group other than in camera. We do not meet as a group without being in public. So it is certainly open to the public tomorrow night.
Councillor Elliott?
Just to say that being on the committee, we weren't really speaking at the last meeting, so we probably will have lots to say. But having looked over the package that Devin gave us earlier in the week or last week, I'm impressed with the ability of staff to pivot. Everybody uses that word, and they've done it. So thank you.
Thank you for that. I don't see any more lights on, so we'll move on to committee reports external. I'm looking at Mayor McKay.
Nothing to add to either of those two.
Any questions? No. Move on. Valley Regional Enterprise Network. That's as submitted. If there's any questions.
I have a question about that. Well, the name of it is, I'm drawing a blank, the tax on
Marketing levy.
the marketing levy. Is there an update on that from the Valley Rent?
At the meeting, they were still in the process. There was no real update unless CAO has something different than at that meeting. There wasn't any.
Yeah, there's no further update. The Valley Wren, I believe, is attending town council or council meetings at the request of that municipality to share information, which was largely what you saw at the joint council meeting, and to answer additional questions. I've shared with the Valley Wren that we will not be in a position to entertain any further requests related to that or have them in for a meeting until likely into the late winter or spring.
If I can, they did ask us for feedback at the meeting about the joint meeting, which I gave some fairly succinct feedback on that. I think we went in with the impression that we would get some questions answered, not more presentations to sell us on it. So they need to do better with sort of getting our questions and getting some answers to us and educating us more on what their process is and coming back with more fulsome answers. So the feedback was provided because I think we all felt relatively the same way after that.
All right, those are all, I'll put my glasses on here. Those are all the reports. We're moving on to item number 10, adjournment in camera. Can I have a motion to move in camera, please?
I would move that we go in camera.
Seconder?
Second that.
I'm sorry, I should have to say, under section 22(2)(c) of the Municipal Government Act, personnel matters.
Thank
I
you.
would second that.
Thank you, Council Butler. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, and that is carried. We are now moved in camera.
So at this point, I'm declaring a conflict of interest. One of the